Hello everyone, it's Corvette Dan. Welcome back to the channel. By the looks of this video, but you can guess what we're going to talk about. This is going to be C3 Corvette restoration. And in this case, we're going to be discussing clutch fan install. So buckle up, smash that thumbs up, click the notification bell. Stay tuned. All right, as we get started here, we're going to discuss why we're going to go back to a clutch fan. Because, a couple of reasons, as you know, I'm trying to get this car as numbers matching as possible ahead of potential Bloomington Gold Survivor judging. But in this case, to tell you the truth, there's another reason that I'm going to say even takes precedence over that, why I'm going to a clutch fan setup. It's because I do not trust these flex fans. As you can see, it is already off. Normally, I would show how to remove and replace something, but in this case, you're not always going to have the same fan that I took off, so it's not necessarily going to be the same thing for you. These are dangerous, in my opinion, okay? Just my opinion. If you feel differently, that's fine. It's off. It's going to be never going back on this car. I took it off. That's a spacer. It was a simple, well, I want to say simple, 4-bolt operation, removing the top of the fan shroud, but it wasn't necessarily simple because this thing is sharp. If you have one of these in your car, be very careful when removing it. Wear gloves, wear long sleeves. Make sure, of course, the battery is disconnected. But this is number one reason why. So with that, we're going to show the new fan and clutch, and we're going to show how to get that set up and ready to get rock and rolling in here. A special shout out to the National Corvette Restorer Society, recently celebrating 50-year anniversary. With that, before you go ahead and decide to replace your fan, make sure you have a fan that's going to work. In this case, what we have here is the fan and the clutch. Now, as you know, I'm trying to return this car numbers matching, right? And if you take a look really quick, okay, this clutch may appear right, but it is just a replacement new fan clutch. This is not period or numbers matching correct. That would be a Switzer clutch, which would not have the center, looks like the spring. It's more of a rectangular piece in here. But bottom line is, I wanted that flex fan off so bad that this clutch is new and it's a replacement, and most importantly, it will fit. With our fan here, what we have here is a 7-blade, which is correct, but we actually have what I believe to be a 69 and up service replacement fan. The part number is on it. We'll reference that later, but the bottom line is this fan will work for my application. It is period correct, the fan, so I assume I would at least get some points over the flex fan, but more importantly, I really want to get that flex fan off, and I've got people scouring right now as we speak for the numbers matching, date-coded correct clutch and fan. So with that, let's start with our next step of the process. Okay, so hopefully your clutch, you already have bolts like I do here, right? So the first step is we're going to take the fan and we're going to mount it to the clutch with proper hardware. I don't know what size these are. I will look that up for you. But again, this is not even the numbers matching clutch, so I'm not sure that what I could tell you that this will be is going to be what you'll end up using. So I don't think it's that important here. One thing I would say, in my opinion, you're going to want a little bit of thread locker. I would use the blue because that's not totally permanent here. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to mount the fan and the clutch. We're going to marry those two together. One thing I want to point out is you want to make sure that you mount it correctly, right? Basically, what you want to do is you want to ensure that the side facing the radiator is this, okay? That is how you want it to be. So whatever side is facing the radiator, this is the side that faces the radiator, okay? So with that, your clutch is going to bolt onto the water pump, right? Like so. So the fan is going to face this way. So in order to do that, you're going to have to mount the fan like this. With me on that? I'll show when it's all bolted together, because yes, it can get confusing because not only do you have to put it on right, then so just make sure that in the end result, the fan, this side, facing the radiator at the front of the car, this side. Okay, and we'll make sure, obviously, if it turns out I'm wrong, which I'm not, I already did my homework, we would certainly not include this in the video. So don't worry about that. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to mount the fan and the clutch together. We're going to use a little bit of the thread locker blue so that these don't come undone at high RPMs. And we'll take it from there. Okay, as you can see, we have the fan mounted, positioned on the clutch with the holes lining up. And the opposite side obviously showing here, because when this bolts up, the correct side will be facing the radiator. So with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in our 4 bolts with a little bit of thread locker blue. We'll show that here in a second. Okay, what we have is we have 4 1/2-inch with lock washer bolts. We have our thread locker blue 1/2-inch on 3/8, and we're going to start putting a little thread locker on and threading these in. Okay, I just wanted to give a quick view. Just a couple of drops of the blue is fine. Nothing fancy. See, it's not all the way around. When you thread it in, that blue will, maybe a little more on that than I needed. That's okay. Next time this comes off, it's coming off for the real deal, and I'd probably save it for a spare or sell it as a unit. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get these started. Not exactly the easiest thing to do is film and do work, and we're getting a real camera for 2025, folks. So, needless to say, overlook the amateur photography here. Okay, so they're all snug. With that, with the thread locker, with the lock washers, I'm going with 25 foot-pounds. If you find or feel that I'm wrong, drop a comment. Let me know what you think. 25 foot-pounds is what I'm going to unscientifically recommend here. And then from there, we're going to go underneath the hood and show what it's going to take us to get this mounted to the water pump. This is what it should look like when you are done after torquing the bolts. So this is the side that's going to face the radiator. It's going to mount like that. Okay? All right. So we're going to pop the hood and we're going to get right at it. We're going to look at how this is going to mount up to the water pump. Stay tuned. Okay, so there we have our clutch, our fan. We have our pulley. And this is the correct numbers matching pulley, right? Keeping in mind that I don't have the air pump currently, which most of these don't have. With that, I don't need the extra pulley that would go on top of this. So basically, the pulley's going to go on. Then we're going to mount the clutch to the water pump. We'll get another look at that here. And then we'll put the top of the fan shroud back on, making sure the belt is correctly tightened. And let's get a look at how we're going to get the studs into the water pump now. Okay, after looking at the NCRS manual, it is determined that there weren't studs that went into the water pump mount here. They're actually bolts. So with that, I went and sourced some bolts. So before I even do this, I just want to make sure that they are correct. So let's get a look now. Before I go any further, I just want to point something out. Now, you know this is a 68, right? And you probably know that the 68 has a different diameter than do the 69 and up. Well, after all these years, how do you really know what water pump is on that car is the correct one? Is it a 68 only? Who really knows? I don't. I'm still learning. So what I did before I even bothered to go get these parts is I took off the fan. I took my pulley that obviously mounted right to the water pump, and I created me a little diagram, if you will. That way I knew when I was to go find whatever I was going to find that if this and that matched up, whatever I was going to buy was going to bolt up to my car. Because again, in this case, I'm just looking to get something period correct and something that isn't a flex fan. So I just wanted to point that out. That'd be a nice little way for you to quickly know what you're buying, if it's going to bolt up or not. Because on these early C3s, it doesn't take a lot to get to this situation. I mean, really, it took me 10 minutes to get this fan off. So I just wanted to point that out to you. All right, so without further ado, let's get this thing buttoned up. After doing some digging, it turns out that the correct application is to use bolts and not studs. So we secured 4 bolts. We got lock washers. The correct size is 5/16 by 24 by 1.25 inches. The 24 signifies the threads per inch, or I believe it's commonly known as national fine thread, but don't hold me on that for sure. But 5/16 is the diameter, 1.25 inches is the length. And we also have lock washers. So we're going to get this thing buttoned up here, and I'm going to show how this is going to look. Again, I can't really do much bolting up and recording at the same time. We'll kind of show you as it goes. Okay. Without a second camera person, there was no way I was going to film this and get this started right now. But as you can see, the hub to the clutch has a slot. So what I did is I started one of the bolts, and then I kind of fished this over it and got the hole mounted. There's a hole in the water pump and a recess hole in the flange. So I just got it, secured on there now. So I'm going to put the third bolt in with a lock washer. Then I'm going to back one of these out, put the lock washer. Just wanted to get this thing in position, which it is now, all right? It's pretty much going to require an open end for you to get this tight. Kind of methodical, a little bit tedious, but nothing you can't do. It's pretty simple. So let's see what this looks like further in the process. Okay, here's what it looks like with all 4 of the bolts started in with lock washers. Now, one thing I can tell you is don't get any one of them too tight until you have all of them threaded in, because it gives you a little more space to work with. Also, before you even do it, I would take the bolts and run them through the holes to make sure the threads are clean and chaste, because you're going to do a lot of manual turning with your fingers. So strong fingers and clean threads are important here. Also, if you trolled me about putting the pulley on with the belt still like that, well, to each his own, or her own. Works for me. These belts, they're hard to get to adjust perfectly where they don't squeak, so we're going to tighten these up. We're going to show what that looks like. We'll give you another look before we button this up completely. Then we're going to put back on the shroud and fire it up. Stay tuned for that. Off the record, I'm going to speak to don't try this at home, folks. I am a professional. Trying to get all these tightened, I gave the engine a quick bump to put the last one top where I could get at it easy. But again, don't try this at home. I am a professional. Okay, we bumped the engine a few times, made sure we got all the bolts tightened. I'm sure there's a torque spec on it, but I'm not getting a torque wrench in there. So my recommendation to you is lock washers, and get those puppies good and tight and check them. That's what I did. All right, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to put the top of the fan shroud on. We'll show that in a second here. Okay, here's the fan shroud. As this is a 68, I think 69 is different. Air, big block, small block. But in this case, see those little slots? They drop in those grooves over there. So we're going to try to do that while filming. Let's see. Can we do it? Can we do it? We got one side. Let's go over and see if we got the other side in. And apparently we do. And that's where we're going to put one of the 2 bolts. And the other one goes down there. We'll show that in a second here. Of note, I believe this goes over instead of in between. Don't lose your wrench like I almost did. And it's a 1/2 inch, as if you can see. And then, you know, I don't even need to show this really, but you get the gist. I don't know that there's a torque spec on this. This appears or feels to be some kind of, this isn't metal, this is plastic or fiberglass, I don't know for sure, but what you want to do here is make sure you just get them snug, good and snug there. Yes, I have the original radiator. I leave this nice thick aluminum aftermarket radiator in there for a reason. It runs nice and cool. So let's get that finished up and let's get this thing started. As we're about to get this started, I want to just make you well aware, reminding you that before you do anything under the hood like this, disconnect the battery. Also, something I have to start remembering myself, safety glasses are a must. I say that because as of January 2nd, Corvette Dan will no longer be requiring vision correction. He's having LASIK surgery on his second eye. I already had it done in the first eye. Yay! Which means I have to think of safety glasses there. Anyway, let's get this thing started. And there we have it. Clutch fan installed. Period correct fan. Clutch, well, it's new. It sure beats the clutch fan. Anyway, safety first, safety glasses. Tie the hair back. Disconnect the battery. Appreciate it. Buckle up. Smash that thumbs up. Stay tuned for the next one. This is Corvette Dan. Thank you very much. My new clutch fan, 68. Corvette 327 300. Automatic power steering, power brakes. AC car, Corvette Dan on YouTube. CorvetteDan.com. Check it out.